the most important factor that causes traumatic brain injury, and that is inflammation. All those hits that you get turn on chemical processes that lead to inflammation in the brain.
For maybe people who have been living under a rock for the last couple of decades, can you maybe give just a brief rundown of what quantifies or what constitutes a TBI?
Absolutely. Uh, TBI, unfortunately, is a label that has a lot of misconceptions and mythology associated with it. The number one that I deal with, especially with the military, is the fact that you have to have either loss of consciousness, like concussion, loss of consciousness, to have the process of traumatic brain injury, mild TBI, moderate TBI, which is associated with changes in mental functioning. So a traumatic brain injury is usually a physical force applied to the brain, to the skull, that transmits to the brain, and in transmission to the brain, for me, sets off chemical processes that are harmful to the function of the brain. And that is what, over a period of time, leads to personality changes, behavioral problems. You're aggressive, you're angry, you're depressed, you're bipolar, you're schizophrenic. You have cognitive impairment, meaning that things that were easy for you, reading, writing, following a trend or a train of thought patterns, these things all get jumbled up in the brain. Because in order for you to interpret what's going on around you in sight and sound and touch, you need to have a brain that is able to interpret it. And think of it as electrical circuits, where when you have traumatic brain injury, those electrical circuits are impaired, and at extreme conditions, they can be severed. So you lose communication between different areas of the brain. We've had veterans who have been exposed to multiple IEDs or blasts in general, who have lost the ability to look at a page with words on it and to read the words, or they're able to say that's a WORD, and you ask them, what does that spell? And they said, I don't know, but they just got finished telling you the letters of the word. But this is disconnect between areas of the brain due to the most important factor that causes traumatic brain injury, and that is inflammation. All those hits that you get turn on chemical processes that lead to inflammation in the brain. Think of it as a fire that starts in your living room. If you put it out, you're cool. You put in a new couch, change the couch you didn't like. But what happens if you don't catch it early enough? The fire spreads from the living room to the den to the bedrooms to upstairs and destroys the entire house. That's the analogy of what happens to the brain if TBIs are missed. Project that I have next month is in Tampa, dealing with subconcussive traumas. These are hits that the brain gets that doesn't cause any acute or immediate symptoms or effects. But over the course of time of constantly getting these subconcussive micro traumas, what happens is it accumulates and creates the exact same thing as being knocked unconscious. And we're now starting to appreciate that. We recognize that in our veterans who were exposed to multiple blasts, micro blasts, or charges, small charges, or far enough away from a series of blasts where they didn't get the full blast wave, or someone who is shooting a 50 caliber machine gun, or the person who is on water skis, going over those water moguls, or skiing over snow and going over those moguls, or someone who is a pneumatic drill, using a pneumatic hammer or a drill cutting up concrete. Those impact traumas are subconcussive, but over time will create problems like neuropsychiatric, psychiatric conditions. So that's what encompasses in a traumatic brain injury. And it's a label that I find misdirects a lot of people. Oh, he had a mild TBI. So you only look at him as a mild TBI and totally ignore everything else. if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So we have to look at that. And a lot of our patient population, military that I see, come to us with psychiatric conditions. It's not the fact that they wanted to develop depression. It's because the change in the chemistry of the brain that's avoiding depression is broken. The option is not depressed or depressed. Wash on, wipe off. Okay, it's either one or the other.